welcome to Nick's Impromptu Reviews, and today I'm going to review the party game Werewolf. Okay, now Werewolf comes in several versions. This version I have right now is called the Ultimate Werewolf Compact Edition. The normal Ultimate Werewolf, it comes in a bigger box, has more rolls, has more cards. This is more of a compact version of it. It has some of the essential special cards, or the most popular special cards, and there's also another version that you're probably familiar with. It's called Mafia, which is pretty much essentially the same game as Werewolf. Now, in fact, the designer, Ted Alspach, he pretty much took the Russian game Mafia back in the 90s, brought it over to America, pretty much kept the rules, and just added a werewolf theme to it. And so, but it's essentially the same game as Mafia. It's a classic deduction style game. Deduction, deception, very social, very interactive. I mean, this is the epitome of an interactive game. And yeah, you really have to know your deduction skills. You have to be deceptive if you're a bad guy, and it's pretty much a lot of fun. A lot of stuff going on. The rules are very easy. It's not that hard to teach, but there is a lot of depth to it. But is it fun? Let's take a look. Okay, so here is a standard game of Werewolf. Let's use an example of, let's say, 17 players. And what's going to happen is that one person's going to be the seer, which is a special villager. 3 people are going to be werewolves, and the rest are going to be normal villagers. Now, at the beginning of the game, the moderator is going to mix these up and then give them randomly to each and every player. And then once the player looks at the card and knows what their role is, they put it away, and that's it, and they're not allowed to look at it again. Okay, so before I get into the actual gameplay, let me tell you what each role is. Now, in that standard vanilla game that I just showed you, there's only going to be 3 types of players. They're either going to be the villager, and the villager, those are the good guys, and most of the people are going to be villagers in the game. And then you have the bad guys, the few werewolves. Okay, and these are the werewolves that are trying to kill all the villagers. And then you'll have one special villager called the seer, and this is a very powerful villager character because they get to, every night they get to see if one person is a villager or a werewolf. So that seer is very powerful. Now there are other roles in this game, but this is just the plain vanilla version, and to me the plain vanilla version is good enough to understand the gist of the game. Okay, so I have the cards set up, and this is just a representation of how the game is played. This is not how you actually play. You really don't use the cards for anything other than to know what your role is. But here, I'm just using the cards just to illustrate. What the cards are going to represent are the actual people sitting down. So basically, the players are going to be physically sitting down in a circle, in a chair or on the floor or whatever, but they will be sitting down in a circle. Now, at the beginning of the game, the moderator is going to tell everyone to close their eyes. And once they close their eyes, you just got to listen to the moderator's clues after that. So after the village closes their eyes, he's going to ask the 2 werewolves, or the 3, in this case the 3 werewolves, to open their eyes and recognize who each other are. Okay? And once they do that, they close their eyes and they go back to sleep. And then he's going to ask the seer. Well, on the first night, the seer is not going to do anything usually. Well, I think sometimes that he lets him look, but most of the time they don't. But the seer, on a other turn besides the first turn, the seer will be able to find out if one person is a werewolf or not. So the seer can secretly point to this guy, and then the moderator will tell him if it's a werewolf or not a werewolf. Okay, so the seer is a very powerful villager. Okay, so once the preliminaries are out of the way, once the werewolves know who each other are, and the seer and the moderator know who the seer is, pretty much the conversation is just open. They can talk about anything they want to. They can lie. They can accuse. They can pretty much do anything. The talking is open-ended. There's really no rule or any restrictions among what you can say, other than you cannot reveal your card. That is the one rule. So basically, conversation goes around, and what happens is that someone, hopefully, someone will accuse a person. So let's say I don't know, this guy accuses him. And then what they need is a second. So let's say this person over here seconds the motion, okay? So we have an accusation. So the two accusees, they get to make their case on why this person should be hung or why he thinks he's a werewolf. And then the accused gets to defend himself. And then after all the arguments have been made, you go ahead and do a vote if you want to lynch him or don't lynch him, okay? And if the majority says lynch, then they kill the villager or they kill this person, and then the moderator will reveal if it's a villager or not. So let's just say they all voted to kill this guy. Well, they killed him. The moderator will say yes, he was a villager, or I mean yes, he was a werewolf, or no, he was a villager. And in this case, he'll say he was a villager, and he is out of the game, and he can no longer participate. Okay, so after that, once they lynch somebody, they go back to sleep again, and then, just like before, the moderator is going to tell the werewolves to wake up. Okay, so the werewolves are going to wake up. Everyone is going to be asleep. Okay, and secretly, the werewolves are going to have to decide who to kill in this village, and it has to be the majority. So let's say they kill this person over here. Okay, so once that happens, that guy's going to die once they wake up. Okay, now he's going to ask the werewolves to close their eyes, and the seer will come out, and he or she will ask about somebody. So let's say he asks about this person right here, and then the moderator is going to say, hey, that's a werewolf. Okay, so she nailed it right on the head. So she's the only villager who knows who the werewolf is, and that's when things get interesting. Okay, now on the next turn she can come out and say, hey, I'm the seer, and that's definitely a werewolf. Okay, well, if people believe her, then they'll kill the werewolf, but guess what? When it comes to night, they're gonna kill the seer, and you want to keep the seer alive as long as possible, because the seer is gonna get some solid information. She's the most powerful villager in the game. Okay, so the game goes on, just continues to goes on, and the villagers win if all three werewolves are dead, and if all three werewolves are hung, and the werewolves win if the amount of villagers equals the amount of werewolves. Okay, and that's when the werewolves win. So yeah, it may be a little difficult for the werewolves, but it really isn't. I mean, there's a good balancing system in this, which I'll explain next. Okay, so believe it or not, that was actually the basics of a vanilla game of a werewolf game of 17 players. Now, as I ended that last section, I said that there's a way to balance the game, and I think this Ultimate Werewolf had an ingenious way to balance it. Now, the way we figured out 3 werewolves, 1 seer, and the rest are villagers is because of the point system. On the lower right-hand corner, or lower left-hand corner, you're going to have a point assigned to each player. The good players have a positive point value, and the bad players have a negative point value. Now, in order to balance it out, you want the total point value to be 0 or near 0. Thus, when I had this game out, we have the werewolves. We have 3 werewolves, and they're -6, so that equals 18. The seer equals 7 plus 7, and then the villagers are 1 point. So that's how I got 11 villagers, 1 seer, and 3 werewolves. Okay, so that should have been, in theory, a balanced game. Now, there are other different characters that sort of add a little spice to this game, and let me go over a few of them. Okay, so first there is the hunter. And the hunter, it's a villager, and when the hunter gets killed, he gets able to take a shot at someone and kill another person. Whether it's a werewolf or a villager or not, who knows. And then you have the sorcerer. Now the sorcerer is on the werewolf team, but she's not identified as a werewolf. She does not wake up with the werewolf. However, like the seer, she gets to check a person every night for the seer. So this is kind of like, I guess you would say, the seer hunter. Okay, the next is the witch. Now the witch has a heal and a kill potion, so every night she has the opportunity to heal a villager who's about to be eaten, or kill a villager who she thinks is a werewolf. Okay, and then you have the bodyguard. The bodyguard will sort of protect a potential victim of the werewolf. So each night the bodyguard will pick a random person, hopefully someone they know that the werewolves are going to get, and basically block them from getting killed. Okay, and then we have the lichen. Now the lichen is a villager, but to the seer it's going to appear as a werewolf. And then we have Cupid, which is, in my green group, it's the most annoying character for the villagers, because what Cupid will do, Cupid will pick two people and they're going to be lovers. And that means if one person dies, the other one dies as well. So I guess it could be an advantage for the villagers if they pick werewolves, but I don't know, who knows. And let me go over one more, and this one more is the, I kind of like this one, the Tanner. Now the Tanner, his job is to die. So if this person dies, the Tanner wins by himself. And I always wanted to play this guy because, like I said, I'm not that very good at werewolf. And every time I'm a villager, I always get lynched. So that's it. That's pretty much how the game goes. Very simple, but very deep. Okay, at first glance, the rules seem very simplistic, and you may think that the game is kind of simplistic, when in fact it's the exact opposite. There is a lot going on in this game. There's a lot of critical thinking, a lot of deduction going in this game, and a lot of psychology. You got to really pay attention to people. You got to look at the way they vote. You got to look at the way they act. You got to look at who they're accusing. And sometimes it's hard to get off to a good start because at the beginning you really have nothing to go on. But it's very, very social. A lot of interaction in this game. And I think if you're a very good lie detector, you can dominate in this game. And there are some good players that I know who will know right away that I'm a villager or a werewolf. And yeah, and then there's some friends of mine who says I have a obvious tell, and unfortunately they wouldn't tell me what it is, so that's why I'm getting killed in this game. But, and like I said, even if you're not playing or even if you get eliminated earlier, watching the game is real fun. Seeing how the people interact, especially when you know who is who, and you see them trying to lie their butt off and you know they're a werewolf, you just kind of get a little chuckle out of that. Or maybe you hit yourself on the head because you were convinced that they were a villager. But yeah, there is a lot going on in this game. And you gotta have thick skin. In these types of games, you really can't take things personally. If someone accuses you, I've seen it when just people really get upset. And you know what? I'll admit, I get upset too when they flat out accuse me. But you really have to understand, this is just a game. And yeah, it's people's job to accuse. Especially if they're a werewolf, yeah, they're gonna accuse. They want to throw people off their scent. So yeah, they'll start accusing and they'll start arguing. Sometimes it gets out of hand, but it shouldn't. But regardless, it's really fun. And like I said, I even like just watching the interaction of your friends. And you know what? Maybe you'll learn a lot from your friends when you play this game with them. And yeah, the arguing back and forth, seeing how people think. It's a real joy to watch, and I really can't explain it by words, but if you experience it by playing or watching, you'll understand. Okay, well, let me tell you about this game first. Under the right circumstances, with the right amount of people, the right mix of people, and a good moderator, this game can be very fun. Now, that's also kind of a negative. You really need to consider those three factors in order to have a decent game of Werewolf. First, you need the right amount of people. It says 5 to 34 players, but I really don't believe that. I think 15 to 20 is the sweet spot. That's a good amount of players. It's doable between 11 to 14 players, but 10 or less, I don't recommend. That's way too small a group. And there's another game called Resistance and Avalon, which is similar to this, that works well with 10 or fewer players, and I'll probably talk about that game sometime. And as for over 20 players, I think it's too chaotic, it's going to take too long, and I think it's just too bulky with 20 or more players. And second, you got to have the right people to be playing this game. I think a good mix of advanced players, young players, old players, and in-between players. I think a good variety is fine. but I really think they all have to be sociable. You cannot have someone who's quiet all the time, and they have to sort of get into it. They have to go ahead and be able to talk to people. Okay, because when they talk to people, that's what gets the game going. This game is all about talking and socializing. So you got to have some good people who are willing to talk and are willing to play the game, to have their heart in this game somehow. Okay, and thirdly, you got to have a good moderator. Moderating this game is not hard at all. I mean, the rules are pretty easy, but the moderator has to really be on task, because one slip up can destroy the entire game. But it's not hard at all, but you really have to be on task to be a good moderator. Okay, so yeah, you gotta consider those three factors. Another negative, I think, is that also you have to accept the fact that there is a possibility that you can get eliminated real early in the game just because. Because at the start of the game can drag on forever, because you really don't have any good tells unless you're a good face reader or anything like that. But at the beginning, especially at the beginning, you really have nothing to go on. No one voted, no one got lynched. You have nothing to go on. So sometimes you just have to kill someone just because, you know, and that kind of get irritating if that person is you. Yeah, but hey, but on the flip side, if they get eliminated, they can sit back and watch, as long as they don't, you know, disrupt the game or anything. They can sit back and watch. And watching this game is pretty fun. If you're an outsider, even just watching the game, I think it's great. I mean, that's why I like being moderator, because I rather watch than play this game, because the game's too stressful and I'm not that good. But anyways, that's another drawback, is that you can get eliminated, and that's it. But other than that, it's a very good party game. If you go to conventions, it's being played a lot. It's very popular. At the Strategicon convention in LA, where I go to, they have like 3 or 4 werewolf games running, and they always run at midnight to add more theme to the mix. But it's a real popular game, and there's not many games that can hold like 30 people, according to this, but I mean 20 people. So yeah, I think it is a really good party game. But like I said, there's a lot of factors you have to consider in order to have a good game. So, Werewolf and Mafia, or whatever you may call it, it's a deduction game. I would give it overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 7 out of 10. Really fun, but like I said, you gotta have the right circumstances. But ultimately, I'll recommend this. And you know what, if you ask me to play, I'll play. Okay, well that's it. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.